What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another episode of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me, as always, are Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
And Robert DeFelice.
Hey.
So, what we're doing today is not our full gear predictions. It's Tuesday instead of Wednesday, and we're not doing that on Wednesday anyway. Instead, we're switching things up a little bit here. What we're doing is a special edition, kind of like what we did the other day with the Mount Rushmore of comedy acts that was sponsored by Marco. This one is sponsored by Guest 5. And if you don't know what sponsored means, it's through our Patreon. So patreon.com/smarkoutmoment is setup of like a bunch of different tiers, and if you toss $1 our way, then that's something that we greatly appreciate. If it's $5, then you have like ad block forgiveness, and you're up on the website, and some different things like that. But there's also the pick your poison tier, and we've mentioned this a couple different times in the past. That's where you can request some kind of a special feature or gimmick of your own that you would like to see us do, whether it's something on the podcast side of things or on the website. So there's a multitude of different ways that you can request different things. You could do like a fan ounce table, or you could do some kind of a top rope list, or you want to bring back belt or bury, or do an extra different call at the spot or something like that. And for this edition, Guest 5 had suggested a fantasy booking, which we do throughout the website. Normally you haven't been doing it on the podcast side of things, but we want to make sure that Guest 5 gets its money's worth, and that all of us have the different possible options that we can do here. So that's what we're going to be taking care of. It's fantasy booking the WWF Invasion, which means WWF, WCW, and ECW. And more so, he had tossed out the idea of, what would you do if you had full control over all the people that weren't necessarily brought in? So that kind of comes into a whole different sort of setup than what WWF had at the time, because they had access to a lot of different contracts, but people were getting paid to sit at home and to not do anything. So that's why you didn't get Sting, you didn't get Goldberg, you didn't get Hogan. A lot of those people just didn't get into the Invasion, because why would they? If you had the option to get paid to sit home and not wrestle and not beat your body up and whatever, why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? But what would we do if we had the creative control? What would we do if we had access to that full roster? And Callum took it upon himself to give us the full breakdown of all 3 different rosters at the time, all the people of the men's division, the women's division, the champions, and that kind of whole setup. So thank you, Callum, for doing that legwork on that. And what we're going to do here is we're going to give out our ideas of what we would do with those cards, and kind of explain how we got to that point, and, what we think is the best setup, and, all the other kind of stuff that goes along with that. So, as always, I want to invite everybody to leave their comments below. And I've mentioned this a million times, but I'll mention it again. If you're on iTunes or Stitcher or Google Play or Spotify or any of the audio-only feeds, you can't really leave a comment, so leave a rating and hop it over to YouTube. And if you're on the YouTube channel and you're leaving a comment on there, then while you're there, you should subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. Ring that little bell for the notifications, and hit that like button on the video. It actually helps out quite a bit. So, that stuff's out of the way. We'll talk a little bit more about the Patreon and all the other kind of plugs and stuff later. We have gotten 4 minutes into this without even talking about the Invasion and all that. So I think the best way for us to start this off is to do a little bit of a recap of sorts. And I can't do the recap as well as these 2 guys have been able to do, because these guys have been doing 2001 A Wrestling Odyssey. So they are much, much more capable of setting up the atmosphere and everything. What would you guys say is the environment that we're working with here with the Invasion?
I would say off the bat, when you look at the rosters that are actually available, because we tried to play it as true to life as possible, there's not as much here as you might think. You might think, oh, this is so easy to do. There's so much star power. Scott Hall's missing. Macho Man Randy Savage is already retired at this point. There's no Roddy Piper. There's no Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart. All these guys that you might think, yeah, if I was doing a dream WWF versus WCW card, they're not there. And then if you look at the ECW side of things, Well, that's just a mess by 2001. And we had to do a little bit of shuffling the deck to bulk up the ECW side, I would say. But what about you, Cal?
I'd say in terms of the atmosphere that we're working with, this is a real game changer, as we've kind of covered throughout the 2001 Wrestling Odyssey series. It's a time where quite a lot of people, in terms of wrestling fandom, have pretty much gone away with the deaths of both WCW and ECW. You're left with just a very hardcore WWF fan base and some of the people that were just sticking around from WCW hoping to get the same feeling. There's a long running belief, and it's probably almost been proven to this point, that most people that were more hardcore watching WCW at this point in time pretty much just left watching wrestling by when WCW died, rather than switching over to WWF, because their ratings would just continue to drop as 2001 went on. So we're entering this period where we can actually, with this available roster now to us, with the fact that, as Tony mentioned earlier, most of these people were sitting on Turner contracts, which meant that they weren't actually, when WCW was purchased, WWF didn't purchase their contracts because their contracts were owned by Turner, the broadcasting network. And so now we have access to those ones, we can actually have an opportunity to try and, I guess, try and accelerate the viewership of pro wrestling and maybe extend the boom period beyond what it actually was, which was essentially WrestleMania 17, and then it fell off a cliff.
Yeah, it really does fall off a cliff, and it's really one of the worst times in wrestling history, I think. Even though we've been going through it with 2001 Wrestling Odyssey, it is not a fruitful time in the industry.
It's very indicative of what's happening now in some ways.
I mean, in many ways. I mean, now we're in a period where things are, with WWE in particular, it's very negative, pretty much 90% of the time. But with AEW, even though there's teething problems, there seems to be some element of hope and buoyancy surrounding them.
Mm-hmm. So
it's now sort of like the period. I'm feeling a bit closer to nowadays. It's maybe a bit closer to 95, 96-ish when Nitro comes onto the scene, as opposed to 2001, which is essentially what AEW could end up looking like in 5 years' time, when if things have gone horribly wrong, they're out of business, and then we're left with just WWE again.
Yeah, it could happen. And you mentioned 95. I keep saying that Seth Rollins had a Bret Hart title reign, and it seems like that's kind of on parallels with a lot of those things. But looking at this roster, I mean, I wasn't watching at this time in 2001. I had, I think it was like 2000 was around the range when I had stopped watching, 99, 2000. And of course, I had been waiting, like anybody would be back in that day, of seeing WWF versus WCW and ECW, and this whole idea of like, man, wouldn't it be so cool if like the NWO would be able to fight D-Generation X, and if Stone Cold Steve Austin invaded WCW, and if Goldberg popped up on WWF and, you know, fought the Undertaker and like all this other kind of stuff. And ECW was never my thing, so a lot of the people that were in ECW, I never really got all that into to begin with, and a couple of the big names looking at this list I didn't even anticipate would have already been in WWF at the time. So I looked at this and I was like, all right, first thing I need to take care of is I need to just take the people that I know I need to do something with and put them in a separate list. And then I need to take everybody else and break them down into like a maybe and a definitely not caring about them list. And I was surprised at how many people were on this, like, I don't need to do anything with them kind of list. Like, just a quick rundown. I don't even know a lot of these names of, like, Billy Wiles, or Cash, or Kiwi, or, I mean, I know all the WWF guys, but even somebody like S.A. Rios, like, I was not really all that familiar with him. And I highly doubt that anybody's like, I gotta make sure I got a spot for Tiger Ali Singh, you know what I mean? But man, I was really, like, shocked at how shallow the rosters on WCW and ECW were. Were you guys, like, I know, and you guys knew more about the whole setup, but where you guys really just like, oh damn, I still thought I had more than this.
One of the names I was surprised to see missing was Terry Funk. I had like little bits of a blueprint of an idea to do with him, and Scott Hall always throws me through a loop because one of the immediate places you want to go to is NWO DX at the least, and then I don't know. I just really feel like, as booming as that period was in people's minds, it really does fall off around the maybe summer of '99. It starts to drop to where we already hit a rebuilding phase for everybody.
I can't say I was particularly surprised having gone back and watched all this stuff, especially on the ECW side of things. They were essentially a glorified independent show at this point in time in their lifespan. And WCW, they had a lot of talent, but they'd been worn down by years of terrible booking, to the point where you kind of look at them and think, okay, well, maybe if this was 2 years ago, this would be a great match, but it's not 2 years ago, it's 2001, and you've been pushed to the ground. You've had, coming off the back of like 2000, when the company has traded the World Championship about 26 times over to, including people like David Arquette and Vince Russo, you're not going to be walking into a stacked deck of people. Realistically, the best time to have done a quote-unquote invasion show of WWF, WCW, and ECW would be around about 98, 99.
Yeah.
Those sort of years. The fact that it's now come to this point where this is the only time we can really do it, because this is when WWF consumes the other two. By this point, the only people that really matter are on the WWF side of things, other than a few standout names from WCW and maybe one or two from ECW.
Kudos to us for not just going, all right, we're going to just throw the rule book out the window and we're going to do a 98 supercard, you know.
Although
someone pays us enough, then we'll do that.
Yeah, I was going to say, if that's something that you guys are interested in, the Patreon, you know, we could always just do that. Do like, not necessarily fantasy booking the Invasion card, but fantasy booking like a master list type of thing. Because, man, I started to write down a list of people before Callum had figured out the whole roster. And I just started writing down on my memory of, like, who was I a fan of back in the day and who would I make sure would be on the card. And I had down names that, like, wouldn't have mattered. Like, I mean, I even wrote down, like, Flash Funk because I just remember him being around at the time. And I was just kind of like, well, you know what, maybe he'd be in a Battle Royal or something stupid like that. But, like, you know, Brett and Owen and Bulldog and like all these other names of people that are not, well, Bulldog's in the mix, but like you know, like a lot of these people that you can't really work with. And even just having the NWO and the D-Generation X stuff where Macho Man or Roddy Piper and all that, like, that could make a huge difference to this card. So keep that in mind. If given the option, I definitely would have been like, yeah, give me Randy Savage in WCW instead of Elix Skipper, whoever that is, you know? But
sounds like I had pitched an idea to you a long time ago for something called Time Machine Dream Match.
mm-hmm.
And it sounds like that's more along the lines of what you would have rather done, where you just go, yeah, give me Macho from 98 versus, you know, Brett from 94 or something.
That is on my perpetual list of ideas to chip away at, was the WWE Super Card, I think is what I had labeled it as originally, where it was just like, look, I'm given the option of picking anybody from any time frame at any point in their career. So I could say, like, you know, peak Shawn Michaels, peak Triple H, peak Ted DiBiase, like that kind of thing and all that. And over the years, I've kind of worked on it a little bit here and there. But every time that, like, a new set of roster people come about, it tends to change my mind. Like, say, when you give me the option of doing that in 2010, I didn't know that Kevin Owens was a guy. And now I'm like, I'm a big fan of Kevin Owens. I want to put him on my card somewhere. And like, man, Daniel Bryan, when he first came on, I was like, I don't understand why everybody likes Daniel Bryan. Now I get it. So it's like, you know, And that's something for another day. I will say, though, that's a big undertaking. So I don't know if that's even necessarily something that we could do, but it is a possibility that we could do that in the future. And I think that working with the Invasion thing, it kind of set up a necessity of, I don't want to say like limiting ourselves, but I guess like a guideline that in some ways made that a little bit easier too. Because if you can have the potential of anything at any point in time, well, then you're going, do I throw Andre the Giant in there? Do I throw Gorgeous George in there? Do I throw, whatever? And it's almost like a little bit too much to take. This, after I started to dig into it, I got a lot more comfortable with the card that I was creating. And I got a feeling that I actually have a pretty decent enough card. How are you guys, before we start talking about our cards, how are you feeling about yours? Are you like, man, there's this big glaring issue, or are you feeling confident about it?
Given the puzzle pieces that I was tasked with, I really like my card, and I think it would have made for an accurate representation of the time with subtle minor tweaks, and I think people would have had fun with it.
I think mine is a little bloated. Even though we've spoken about the fact that there doesn't seem to be as much of the big superstars that there were from a few years ago in WCW and ECW, there's a lot of really talented wrestlers in this entire breakdown that we have, and trying to fit them all onto a card, or fit all of the good ones at the very least, was a bit more of a struggle than I was expecting, and it might have resulted in too many multi-man matches or too many cluster type matches. But I'm kind of taking the mindset of this is the Attitude Era still, and so these sort of matches go down well at this point in time. We're not as hypercritical as we are nowadays about throwing people into tons of 6-way matches or hardcore elimination rules or something like that. That's the in thing at this point in time. And I think having a lot of matches is not as bad because it's the Attitude Era, and so most matches go about 6-7 minutes anyway. So I don't think it would overrun too much on the time front. But, I was going to say, before we got started, do you want to? I kind of wanted to see what we're up against, essentially, what we're booking against.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Which is obviously the original Invasion show, which you can obviously go back and listen to our review of that. Me and Rob did that on our June
right?
edition. July edition, should I say? July 22nd, 2001. It took place. So this is what they had to work with and what they put together with the resources available. So a heat match between Chavo Guerrero and Scotty 2 Hotty.
All right, fair enough.
Edge and Christian versus Lance Storm and Mike Awesome. Earl Hebner versus Nick Patrick.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we're all going to agree that that's not on our cards.
Yeah. The APA versus Chuck Palumbo and Sean O'Hare. Billy Kidman against X-Pac. Raven against William Regal. Chris Kanyon, Hugh Morris and Sean Stasiak against Albert the Big Show and Billy Gunn.
That just makes no sense to me. I mean,
Yeah.
Even in the context of the idea that I don't remember all this stuff because I wasn't watching at the time, Albert's in a stable, the X Factor, and Big Show and Billy Gunn thrown in there? Like, what?
You know what's even more distressing about that one is that Albert walks into that match as the Intercontinental Champion.
Jesus God.
So, and then you have Tajiri versus Taz, Rob Van Dam versus Jeff Hardy, Trish Stratus and Lita versus Tori Wilson and Stacy Keibler, and then the 5-on-5 big brawl at the end: Booker T, Bubba Ray Dudley, DDP, and Devon Dudley and Rhino against Chris Jericho, Kane, Kurt Angle, Steve Austin, and The Undertaker.
Now, for that brawl, because I haven't seen Invasion in a long time, I forget even when I watched that. It's a couple years ago. Was it just like a tag team match? Or did it was
a 5-on-5. Yeah. It wasn't an elimination match like what we're talking about when we get to Survivor Series. It was just a 5-on-5 match, which supposedly had rules, but it was called the inaugural brawl, and it did all break down towards the end. And it was just a load of people get thrown through tables or slammed to the outside, and then Austin turns on the WWF and joins the Alliance. So not great.
I think it's very strange that Mick Foley is a special guest ref for 2 matches.
Well, he was only originally meant to be the special guest referee for the referees versus referees match, because obviously they would be biased against one or the other. But then he decided to use his power as being a referee for the Knights so he could referee the bra and panties match as well.
So that's like, this is what we're trying to beat.
Yeah,
and
I'm pretty sure we have more resources available to us. Let's be fair.
Then again, though, I've seen plenty of different fantasy cards on different websites for different things, and I've been like, oh my god, I'm glad that these people don't work for WWE, you know? I forget what one recently, somebody was like, I was looking up a graphic for like the WrestleMania logo or something, and I came across the thing on like DeviantArt, and this person was like, this is my fantasy card for WrestleMania 36, and it was something like Andrade. No, it wasn't Andrade. It might have been Aleister Black against like Heath Slater or something for like the WWE Championship or something. And I was just like, what? Like, where the fuck are you getting this from? You know, like, so who knows? If you are listening to this right now, we start breaking down our card and you're like, what the hell are you thinking? Whatever. Drop a comment below and tell us what's going on through your mind. I will say, though, we not only have the availability of all those people on the roster, we also don't have the ability to just bring in other people. So it can't just be like, well, if I were in control, I would have signed Scott Hall and, you know, that kind of thing. But we can play around with some stuff. People don't have to stay heel or babyface if they are at the time. You could break up tag teams. You could mess around with some different things like that because you do have creative control over this group of different people. And if you want to, you could turn DDP into a stalker. You know, it could be the thing if you wanted it to be. That is kind of, I'm assuming, about as much setup as we probably could put out there. I don't know if there's really anything else that we need to really clarify ahead of time. We do obviously have the benefit of hindsight. It's a little hard to sort of judge air raid and say, well, I'm going to make AJ Styles one of the main people because in 10 years he's going to be a much bigger deal. Kind of hard to take that into account, but maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I don't know. So who wants to go first? I can go if you guys don't want to go, but if you volunteer, then, you know.
I think because you're the least familiar with this time period, it might be interesting to see what your take is on it.
Alrighty. So here's my setup. Again, I do not know a lot of the people that are like on the lower card, so I pretty much ignored them. And I don't like the idea that there's the alliance. So my big shakeup is there is no Vince McMahon, Shane McMahon, Stephanie McMahon feud at all. Shane McMahon does not buy WCW. And if you say, well, you can't go back in time and reverse the idea of the WCW thing, all right, he loses control. There's some kind of litigation thing or something like that, and it becomes total chaos. But I noticed on Callum's list here that I had access to Paul Heyman and I had access to Eric Bischoff. So what's going to happen is Vince and Shane have their feud. They knock that out. They wrestle at WrestleMania. All that stuff's pushed out of the way. And then the time frame between that and Invasion, which I don't know if I'd bump Invasion up in the year or not. I probably would, so that way you wouldn't have to waste as much time, because I looked at the amount of pay-per-views in between and I was like, man, that's really strange that it's like, I'm buying WCW, no, I'm buying WCW, and we'll fight in about 6 months or something. It's a little hard to swallow some of the other cards. So we're going to treat this as like that we're not going to have the next event, which would be, I think, Backlash or so. And we're going to spend a little bit of time building up their first quote-unquote super card. Now we have the benefit of hindsight. We know that we can get WrestleMania to be some 5, 6, 7 hour show, and we're going to have the time for that. I'm not going to have 3-minute matches. I'm going to have decent sized matches and everything. And, excuse me, the setup of like the atmosphere, what's going on right now in the company is Vince has bought WCW, and you're not quite sure what's happening with ECW yet, but he's bought WCW. yet he doesn't have control over everybody. And Eric Bischoff still has a modicum of control. A lot of the people with WCW are afraid that they're going to lose their jobs. A lot of people with WWF are afraid that they're going to lose their jobs because the WCW guys are going to come in, and somebody like a Booker T, for instance, is like a hot shot and he's really good at things. So whether you're like a D'Lo Brown or a Chaz with their crappy tag team with Tiger Ali Singh or whatever, which may not even be a thing in mine, you're looking at that and going, well, there's no room on the roster for me because they've got Booker T. Like, you know, shit, they're going to want to replace me with the better guy like that. There's tension. People do some back and forth things. WCW people attack WWF guys. You got some backstage stuff where people don't get along, all that other kind of stuff. And Paul Heyman realizes that there's this whole feud for years now of WWF versus WCW. Everybody just keeps talking about what would happen if the two juggernauts fight each other. Nobody ever gave a shit about ECW. They were always the outsiders. So you know what? Fuck it. They're going to be the outsiders. They want to be the rebel brand. Everybody wants to talk about them being the guys who can't fight these two or whatever. They're going to fight them both. Now it's time to rebel. Full-on gang warfare. ECW is basically like the Joker in The Dark Knight sitting between Batman and the mobsters. I don't know which one. WWF would be Batman, I guess. I didn't even really think about that analogy. But just making total chaos for everybody. There is no alliance. It's ECW versus WCW versus WWF. But everybody knows ECW is the little engine that couldn't. So they're essentially just trying to be assholes. And people are defecting to different brands. They have certain people that they're like, I want to go to this side because it feels more natural to me. More so the ECW guys. For instance, Raven is just like, you know what? ECW is my home. Fuck you guys. I'm going to go over there and I'm going to fight for them. But there's also people that feel a little more comfortable with WCW, and there's good and bad people on both sides. I've mentioned Booker T. He's kind of a hero for WCW. You're supposed to cheer for him, but you're also supposed to cheer for somebody like The Rock for WWF. Goldberg, major hero for WCW. Undertaker, hero for WWF. Buff Bagwell, real asshole. Nobody likes him. He's in WCW. So, man, I can't wait to see that ECW guy beat that Buff Bagwell. You know what I mean? Heel and face turns all over the place, so on and so forth. So, my card is not in order of how I would break down, like, this match goes first and all that, because I kind of couldn't figure out a good way to do that. And if I had another week or so, I probably would be able to take the time to sort it out. But if you've seen my fantasy bookings over the years, you know that I like to do somewhat big match, littler match, somewhat big match, littler match. Like, I don't like doing, like, multiple giant matches in a row. So by all means, this match would not be like, well, one of the big matches or whatever. But in no particular order, I need to talk about one of the elephants in the room. We're in 2001. This is a different era. The women's division is not the way that it is now. So we're not getting some Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch type of scenario. Instead, we're getting one of these two matches, depending on if they want to showcase more people. It's either a bra and panties battle royal with literally every woman in WWF, WCW, and ECW, or a little bit more reserved, a bikini contest. And it's just a TNA segment. It's a buffer segment somewhere on the card where you can just take a couple minutes to let people go to the bathroom if they want to, or they can just kind of sit and relax and eat some of their food, you know, that kind of thing. And if you do the bikini contest, it's 3-on-3-on-3. For the ECW side, you have Beulah, Dawn Marie, and Francine. For the WCW side, you have Medaja. Is that what her name was? How do you pronounce it?
Medaja. Yeah.
She strikes me as one of their... I would have wanted to put Major Guns in there, but she wasn't in the mix at the time, because Tylene Buck's better looking, I think. But you have Stacy Keibler, and you have Tori Wilson. And for the WWF, you have Deborah, puppies, all that stuff. Lita, and Trish Stratus. Now, I was disappointed that I couldn't, if I did 3-on-3-on-3, I couldn't include like the Cat or Tori or Terry Runnels was like the main one that I wanted to get in there. And I actually thought about bringing her over to ECW, but I liked the 3 ECW girls, so that was another thing. Where do you put Chyna? Where do you put some of the other people? Well, Chyna, she's tough. She's the women's champion. Why is she going to be in a striptease, you know? She could just be like, you know, I'm the women's champion. No, there's no people on WWF, WCW, or ECW that are worthy of fighting me. And I think that I'm not going to compete in this kind of stupid thing. So you guys get to the point where you can fight me and we'll fight. Ivory's in right to censor, so she's going to stop the striptease and they'll strip her or something like that. I don't know. But it's basically just a strip fest. There's nothing really, you know, too much to deep dive in there. And it doesn't matter who wins. This isn't like Survivor Series where we're trying to keep track of the wins and losses and stuff. You literally just let the fans pick. I got a feeling they'd probably go with either Trish or Stacy or Tori. But who would you guys think would end up winning that?
Lita.
Definitely somebody on the WWF side, so I'm going to go Trish.
I think based on what I've sort of seen from the crowd reactions, Lita is the most over woman on the roster. So I would probably say Lita would just get it by default.
But Trish has those, I think when it comes to assets like this, Trish is going to win.
Everybody would win who's a fan. You know, at that time frame, the only thing that I would be worried about if I were a kid watching that then would be like, man, why aren't Sonny and Sable in the mix here? And why isn't Terry Runnels in there? Because those were 3 of my favorites. Again, this is in no particular order, so not like just going like that's the start of the night and then we're going into this match. But I do need to address this. The Undertaker versus Sting. And since we have creative control, I do not want my American Badass. I want my Phenom. So Sting is the Crow Sting, and he starts fucking around with the Undertaker, and that makes the Undertaker go back to being the Undertaker, because I want my Undertaker, and I want my Sting match. So we get Deadman versus the Stinger, and you guys just let them do their thing, and I'm assuming that it's a great match, a lot of the gaga, as Pat Patterson would say, and I'd go with Undertaker winning. I think that Sting has a lot of feuds that he could do in the future and all that, but he doesn't necessarily have to be like an undefeated type of person. And with The Undertaker, it's The Undertaker. You can lose to The Undertaker and you don't look bad, no matter who you are.
Hold on. So, what's the story there? Because I've talked to you about story development, and I can imagine that there's a lot of special effects in the build-up to this match.
I think that you play into everybody's fantasy booking of WCW and WWF, even if you can't do the exact same thing as what you would like to do with like 98 and stuff. And Sting, for me, because I wasn't like a Crockett guy or anything, my version of Sting that I like the best is in the rafters. So he'd be fucking around with the Undertaker, and it would be almost like, all right, I'm in your playground now, but I need to kind of forge my own little section of the darkness. And Undertaker can be like, no, just because I'm American Badass right now doesn't mean that I'm all above this darkness type of stuff. I still have that in me. And Sting brings it out of the Undertaker, and it's like, you wanted, you know, the darkness? Here you go. Here's the Phenom. So lots of like the lights going out, people attacking people, druids showing up, but Sting has druids of his own with the Sting masks on, like that kind of stuff. Lots of lightning, yeah, that kind of thing. Another big match, The Rock versus Hulk Hogan. We're working with benefit of hindsight, of course. The promos, the over-the-top atmosphere of like their personalities, and to be perfectly honest, I have to lump it into the Sting and Undertaker thing and the next match to talk about, which is Steve Austin versus Goldberg. My philosophy is Austin and Goldberg is a one-shot deal. And I don't think you can get much out of Goldberg with a feud. He's kind of just, does he beat the guy or not? So Austin and Goldberg is kind of like, man, these two are going to fight. And you can't really do much with that. Goldberg's not a promo guy. He's not somebody who can feud with Austin and fight backstage and do some kind of like bitter rivalry type thing. So I want to get Austin and Goldberg out of the way. And because that's the case, that means I can't do Austin Hogan. So we're going to do Rock Hogan. And that also saves Rock Goldberg for the future for something like a SummerSlam. Because at WrestleMania next year, more than likely, I'd have Goldberg versus Undertaker and Steve Austin versus Hulk Hogan. The Rock at WrestleMania, probably against like Booker T. I think that would be a really good thing. And just to kind of spoil another thing, probably Triple H versus Kevin Nash. Those would be some like my four main like pillars, kind of. So Rock versus Hogan, kind of think of it as their feud that happened. You know, they were trading shots at each other. It's, you know, the movie stuff, kind of. The Rock's not into the movie stuff quite as much because it's 2001, but same thing. And I think I would probably go with Hogan winning, but maybe this might be the match that ends with some kind of schmaz. Because I sort of look at it almost as like Undertaker beats Sting, and I'll spoil it, Goldberg beats Steve Austin.
Boo.
Austin can take the loss more, and Goldberg, if he stays undefeated and all that, Undertaker and Goldberg means more. He's not undefeated. I mean, he lost to Scott Steiner and stuff, but still. I think Austin can take the loss, and maybe you can even protect him by having somebody from WCW come out and help Goldberg, even if Goldberg's the good guy and he doesn't really want to have their help or something. Hogan, he can play into the black and white. He can play into the red and yellow. The Rock can kind of be a dick. It's kind of almost like two dicks against each other, sort of, because even though you like him, The Rock's an asshole. And even if you don't like The Rock, even if you don't like Hulk Hogan, you're kind of like, I kind of like Hogan. At least back then, you know, before a lot of the things happened. So Undertaker beats Sting. The Rock probably loses to Hogan, but maybe it's like a double count out or something. Goldberg beats Austin. I have a War Games match. Team WWF versus Team WCW versus Team ECW. Actually, you know what? That could be the thing. It could be Rock and Hogan are fighting and ECW screws them over. That could be a good way to get around that, because I haven't worked ECW into the mix here, but I will with this one. And my team for WWF is, the team captain is Triple H. And alongside him are Big Show, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, and Kurt Angle. Team captain for WCW is Booker T, and he has DDP, Jeff Jarrett, Kevin Nash, and Lex Luger. And Team ECW, a couple people who defected. Rob Van Dam is the captain, and he's accompanied by the heart and soul of ECW, Tommy Dreamer, Taz, Raven, and Rhino. And one of the stories for this match would be people don't know if they can trust each other, because people start pinpointing the idea of, like, Kurt Angle is basically a WWF guy. He had a little bit of ECW in there, so they're kind of like, I don't know about that. But he points out to them, he's like, well, look at you guys. Triple H, you were in WCW. You were terrorizing, you know. Big Show, you were the Giant. Your career started in WCW. Chris Benoit, you're a fucking WCW guy. Chris Jericho, you made yourself in WCW before you got here. How do I trust that you guys are not just going to fight for WCW? Booker T, he's pretty much sitting pretty. He's like, you know, I've always been WCW. I'm cool. DDP's always been WCW. He's cool. But Jeff Jarrett was a WWF guy. Kevin Nash, he was Diesel. Lex Luger, that fucker came over to WCW and screwed over WWF. But who's to say he won't just do that for us? Rob Van Dam, well, you're already a turncoat. You know, you already went from WWF to ECW, and for the most part, ECW is like, we're sitting pretty, we don't give a shit. We're all a bunch of lunatics, so let's just kind of do some coke backstage and just have some fun. I don't think you'd really allude to that on the show, but maybe. So we're playing around with that, and Team WWF would probably win, but I'd also give a lot of consideration to Team WCW winning. Team ECW is not here to win matches. They're here to just cause some chaos, so they would totally just not be as big of a deal. Could be elimination match, might not. If it's War Games, you're assuming cage, so you might not need to do the whole elimination type thing. I don't know. I think we have similar setups with some of those things, but I kind of want to get your opinions about that. I'll send it to you in the chat so you know. What are you thinking about the whole teams that I got going on without knowing the rest of the card?
Go ahead, Callum.
I mean, they're pretty prominent people in all of those matches, so I can't say it's how I would have gone with this War Games type atmosphere, but I think it's about as big as the people that you've already got in the like big singles matches. I think it's probably the three biggest teams you could probably put together.
I would agree, and it's interesting to me that you didn't have somebody like Hunter in a singles match, but I do think your WCW representatives are very good. Your ECW representatives are about as good as you can get for that brand, and the WWF guys, I know Benoit wasn't around for the time of the invasion because of the neck injury, but I really do think him and Jericho would have played strongly into this war had they been able to be a unit.
With Triple H, the reason why I didn't book him in a singles thing was I couldn't figure out anybody to pair him with that I thought warranted being separate. I thought about Triple H versus DDP, though. And the more I thought about it, I was just like, I don't know if I really want to dedicate like a 20-minute match to that. And I really liked the idea of DDP being on Team WCW, because to me, he's always been like a forefront WCW guy. So that led to that more. I did think about Triple H versus Jeff Jarrett, but then I was like, we've seen that before. It's not anything special, you know. And Triple H versus Booker, I thought about that too, but then I thought he's more of a captain too. So another WWF WCW ECW triple threat match is just a tag team triple threat match. It's kind of the battle of the tough guy tag teams, sort of, where it's Dudley Boys defected to ECW, because why would not they? You know, I mean, they did it in the real one too. And the APA is for WWF, and the Steiner Brothers are for WCW. Sounds kind of weird, Steiner Brothers being like the tough guys or whatever, but Scott Steiner's a fucking beast, and Rick Steiner's his brother, so, you know, why wouldn't they be a tag team? And I think I'd actually give the win to the Steiner Brothers. I think that they would probably beat either, like, JBL maybe takes a pin, or, like, you know what? They'd beat Devon, let's be honest. It's more so, like, Dudley Boys want to just create chaos again. APA is there to kind of brawl, and the Steiner Brothers are there for a little bit more of the wrestling side. So you got a brawler, you got a hardcore person, and you got a wrestling team. Okay, so here's one of my quote-unquote battles of the behemoths. It's the two psychos against each other. Psycho Sid against Kane.
I almost had that match, but I just had way too many bigger ideas for Kane. But I do think Sid is a prominent piece of the puzzle, being one of the only guys who did all three promotions. And let's be honest, as far as WWF and WCW go, nobody was as much of a main eventer throughout their entire career as Psycho Sid.
I was actually counting down the matches until you got to your big man buffet match. So
yep. Yeah, what's funny is that big man buffet that I always want to put out there, I actually have in my notes, I had Kane, Sid, Rikishi, Big Show, Taker, Goldberg, even though I knew that like Goldberg would get a singles match and stuff, but I wrote down all of them on the side. I wrote down big man buffet. And then when I started to make this card and all that, I put down a separate note and I said, we could do that at Mania. So my likelihood would be at WrestleMania, there would be the Big Man Buffet. I still fucking love that name for some reason. And it would be Sid would probably be in that, Kane would probably be in that, Big Show would be in it, and it would be like by that time they would have already had like the brand split would have already started to happen, and people would be fighting for their jobs and different things, and it would be like, who's the real the big boy in WWF, kind of, Big Man Buffet, you know me well. Which also explains one of my other matches, Rikishi versus Bam Bam Bigelow.
What? You dedicated time on a pay-per-view card for this to Rikishi and Bam Bam?
Uh-huh. Because they're both two huge dudes who can move a lot quicker than you would think that they would. It wouldn't be a long match, but it would be the type of thing where I always really liked Bam Bam. And I always thought that Rikishi had a lot of positives too. And I would just like to see those two fight each other. I did think about Kane versus Bam Bam, and then I thought, then I'm just going the flame guy against the flame guy. And I thought about Rikishi versus Sid, and I thought about putting them in the tag match, and then I was like, I don't really want to do that all that much. But the idea with Rikishi and Bam Bam, more so than just like, I guess not more so, but on par with the idea of just like, just have these two guys fight each other, it'd be kind of fun, is Bam Bam, my key with Bam Bam throughout this whole thing is he doesn't pick a side that he sticks to. Because he's been in ECW, he's been in WWF, and he's a WCW guy at this point, and he's going to be a constant turncoat. Because I think Bam Bam's funny with like that kind of a scenario where one week he's just like, yeah, I like WCW, yeah, I like ECW, yeah, I like WWF, and whatever like that. Eventually, I would probably land in him just being a part of WWF, because that's where my bread and butter kind of is, but I think on this card, he would be on behalf of ECW, and I kind of wanted to have like a separate WWF versus ECW match, so that played into it too. But for the most part, I'd like to see these two big, speedy kind of behemoths against each other again. Hold your horses for this one. I think this is going to be a little bit of a bumpy road. This is a lumberjack match, where we throw in everybody who's not on the card yet, and I have more matches that are in the mix here. So, for instance, Eddie Guerrero is not in this. But the lumberjack match is Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon against Eric Bischoff and Ric Flair. Here's the setup.
Go on. This works. I like it.
Here's the setup. Remember, Shane didn't buy WCW. He has no stake in it. Bischoff has been trying his hardest to resist this whole takeover, and it's kind of... Part of this actually factored into what's been happening recently with the Saudi Arabia thing, where the term has been thrown around of a dick measuring contest. Bischoff and McMahon are sitting there going like, we're measuring dicks backstage, so to speak. I could run this company better than you can. No, you can. I fucking bought you out. What are you talking about? So they decide to be kind of like, all right, you think that you could do better? I'm going to give you a modicum of control over this match, and I'm going to let you pick my tag team partner. And I can beat you with anybody on my fucking roster. And Vince McMahon's like, all right, I can pick your fucking person, and you know what, pal, I'm gonna beat you with my fucking grapefruits and all that other kind of stuff. So Bischoff is the first to pick, and he picks Shane, because Shane and Vince, they still did feud at WrestleMania. They still don't like each other. Stephanie, by the way, wears her part in this whole card. I don't think Stephanie factors in as much, and maybe she can just kind of be tagging along with Triple H, or I don't know really what she was doing at that time or something, but she's not in this like warfare for those things. But you might be able to play that in as maybe she's a little sympathetic to Bischoff or something. I don't know. That's not really the thing that I would focus on, and some other writer on my creative team can figure that out. But Bischoff's like, haha, motherfucker, I picked Shane. He's going to be your tag team partner. You can't get along. You're going to lose. You're going to, beat the hell out of each other just like you did at WrestleMania. So to counter it, Vince is like, well, I know somebody who you fucking hate and who hates you, Ric Flair. And it's basically Vince doesn't trust Shane, but Shane starts to kind of understand his legacy is up for grabs here. You know, he is going to take over WWF at some point. So he doesn't want WWF to go under. So he's like, you know what? We're going to set our differences aside. I want to make sure that my future company is in my hands. I don't want to lose this to Eric Bischoff. Bischoff doesn't trust Flair. And Flair flat out admits, I never liked you, Bischoff. You fucking run WCW through the ground. And you're the reason why we're in this mess to begin with. But WCW runs through my veins. And I don't want WCW to die. I was really passionate with that last episode. I'm willing to shake my hand with you, and we're gonna try to fight, and I guarantee you at some point, motherfucker, I'm gonna take WCW from you, and at that point, whatever. So it's basically the two partners want to take it over for the bad guys, the Vince and Bischoff thing. Vince and Shane win because Flair turns on Bischoff. Haha, fuck you. I'm not loyal to WCW. You were the fucking NWO. I'm loyal to the NWA. And I went to WWF in 91. How did you not see this coming? But here's the kicker. And it plays into what happens after this. Vince does need to be a heel. He's not a long-term babyface type of guy. And people want to cheer Ric Flair, so they might boo him with this kind of thing. Eventually, we have to turn Flair. We have to turn Vince. So that's where the whole brand split comes into the mix later on. Basically, we're doing this turn here. We're setting some stuff up because Flair is going to eventually be the quote-unquote savior, and Vince is going to be the asshole in the brand split and do that kind of thing. So this is a lumberjack match, so you're going to throw in a lot of different people. You're going to throw in Mark Henry, you're going to throw in Steve Blackman, you're going to throw in Test, and it's going to kind of be a part of, like, Vince wants them to be, like, his bodyguards for this match, sort of. Like, I want Mark Henry to stand by my side and make sure these WCW guys don't fuck me over. Natural Born Thrillers, I have nowhere for them on this card, so they're going to be in the lumberjack match. Buff Bagwell's going to be in there because I have no spot for him. Stuff like that. But I think I'm going to split Haku and Rikishi. And I'm going to have him go back to being Meng, because Meng and Haku, whatever you want to call him, one of the most notorious badasses. And I think that we can kind of play into that a little bit. And it could be like, oh, fuck, WCW has him. We could have like 18 people in our lumberjack match and we're not going to beat him. We need a tank, that kind of thing. So where is Paul Heyman in this? He's a weasel. You know he's not going to want to fight Eric Bischoff and Vince McMahon. And I couldn't think of a person that he could tag with. I thought about Tommy Dreamer, but I didn't really want to have Tommy Dreamer in this match because nobody would really expect them to win. So instead, he's like, I'm going to excuse myself from the festivities. Nobody wants to see me fight. You know, I'm the good guy here. And everybody looks through it. You know, it's the same kind of act that he does with the whole, like, I'm just an advocate after he, you know, talks trash about somebody with Brock Lesnar and all that. So I know that's a lot to unpack, but what are you guys thinking?
Take out the line of I'm loyal to the NWA, and I think I like it a little bit more. I think that might confuse an audience because, you know, you already have WWF, WCW, ECW. It's going to get confusing. And then if you have somebody go, well, I'm loyal to the NWA, does that mean Ric Flair is going to create an NWA stable? You know, like...
I would tease that, actually.
Would you?
I would tease that with the brand split. It would end up being where he'd be like, I don't want WCW to come back. I want to bring back the old NWA type of thing. And it would be like, kind of, SmackDown doesn't become the NWA, but that would be kind of like their way of trying to play around with that a little bit.
I mean, Jim Cornette is sitting right there in OVW if you want to.
Yeah, true.
Get him to join it.
Like, so, Jeff Jarrett would be a part of that mix, where Flair would want to have, like, Jeff Jarrett kind of be in that sort of side of things, and, you know. But there is no actual NWA. It's not like NWA SmackDown.
I think it's definitely an interesting matchup. The thing that confuses me more about is what the Lumberjacks really do. Because arguably 3 of the guys in this match are non-wrestlers. And so it's like, okay, so these wrestlers are going to beat them up on the outside, these old men and people that can't actually wrestle matches. It'd be more funny if it was like, or I assume it would break down to the point where they're having the match in the ring and it's just everyone on the outside just fighting around them.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, but I just
And
think it's quite.
That's part of where the Flair thing kind of comes in, and
yeah.
There's so much chaos that he can do that kind of a thing. And
also, it's a pay-per-view and you have a fuck finish, which is very unlikely.
Yeah, it's a little strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I even said earlier that Rock and Hogan might have some kind of a draw or something too.
It's almost like WWE kind of just can be forgiven for falling into these predicaments very often.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'm not done yet. I still have more. Remember, I'm working with like a 5-hour card here. The Hardy Boys versus Billy Kidman and Rey Mysterio. Not really much to talk about there. 2 babyface tag teams. They actually show respect to each other. They have a good match.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that Kidman kind of looking a little grungy and Mysterio kind of being like his sort of thing, and the Hardy Boys, they kind of mesh well together. And maybe that would be like one of the few times where people would like shake hands and be like, hey, I respect your work in the other company. Let's be friends, Certainly wouldn't happen with the Cruiserweight Triple Threat. X-Pac versus Jerry Lynn versus Shane Helms. Basically just who's the best Cruiserweight out of the 3.
That's a fun match. I'd watch I'd watch that.
And Jerry Lynn's the one taking the pin for that one. I think I would probably go with X-Pac, but I'd consider doing it with Helms just to give him a boost. Because X-Pac, that the WWF crowd is going to still stick around with him or give him X-Pac heat.
Whereas, very much X-Pac heat at this point.
Yeah.
Helms probably then at that point, if he is getting the X-Pac heat, that's crazy. I'd probably go with Helms. Hardy Boys would probably beat Kidman and Mysterio probably. Funny enough, Edge and Christian against Lance Storm and Mike Awesome.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, I couldn't think of another set of tag teams that I wanted to put up against Edge and Christian. And I was like, you know what? I'll do that. I thought about having them against Too Cool. I'm not Too Cool. I have Too Cool at a different thing. I just read that. Against Alex Wright and Disco Inferno in like a funny match. But the more I thought about that, the more I lumped that into another thing that I'm going to talk about. But yeah, I kind of couldn't think of another way to put them in there. And that's the thing that I'm the least into. And that's the one that I would be willing to change the most. I couldn't think of a better thing for Edge and Christian. I didn't want to put them in the Team WWF War Games thing because they were a little bit too funny. I tried to tag them up with the Hardy Boys and figure out something where it was like the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian against Kidman, Mysterio, Conan, and somebody else. And nothing felt natural to me. So I was like, you know what? I think Edge and Christian versus Lance Storm and Mike Awesome would be my pre-show match more than anything. Kind of like my free-for-all, if they still had that back then. Did they still have that?
They had Heat.
Oh, yeah, Heat. So I like the name free-for-all better. So that's another creative change I'll make. Sunday Night Heat's free-for-all. I don't like it. I'll admit that's my weakest part of this whole card. And it's the same thing that they did. So I'm disappointed in that. But if you want to, maybe I would throw in an ECW tag team and make that Edge and Christian versus Lance Storm and Mike Awesome versus... I mean, I don't really have a whole lot of faith that a lot of these tag teams would amount to anything, but maybe like the Unholy Alliance. Or
Tajiri and Mikey Whipwreck for people that don't know.
Yeah, like maybe that. I don't really like it though. None of these things I really like all that much. So I might do that. I don't know. Before I get to my last match, I have a separate section here, which is random comedy segments. And I don't know if these would have been happening on Monday Night Raw leading up to this, or if there would be time for it on the card for like little buffer segments and stuff, but I figured I'd put them all in there just in case we had enough buffer. So I couldn't resist the idea of having X Factor backstage with Chronic. Just the names. Just being like, I don't know, I wonder if we can get along, like that kind of thing. Too Cool would be in some kind of a segment with 3 Count and Alex Wright and Disco Inferno, some kind of thing based off of like the one's doing the Worm, Disco Inferno is doing that, 3 Count's the boy band, that kind of thing. These are, again, stupid comedic little buffer segments and stuff, not anything to be like sink your teeth into. Right to Censor would have some kind of an interaction with the ECW crew that I have on the side, which would be Al Snow, Sandman, the Blue Meanie, Balls Mahoney. More importantly, though, Stevie Richards, who would defect from Right to Censor and go back to his awful ECW ways. And they probably would end up fighting with Crash Holly and Hardcore Holly, who would be more like, well, we'll fight the ECW guys. Hey, I got an idea, that kind of thing. Give me the belt. Maybe something with MIA, something with Full-Blooded Italians. I really like the idea of William Regal trying to defect to WCW and trying to become Lord Steven Regal again, but that they don't want him to do that. So maybe that would be a part of this. It's really just a matter of, let's just have some fun with some buffer stuff. And the final match, again, not in any kind of order. This isn't the main event of the night, but the final match that I've got on my list is a triple threat with the Radicals. So they start having a lot of ideas of like, you know what, I'm glad that ECW is coming in here. I'm glad that WCW is coming in here. What are you talking about? WWF is our home now. Like, we left WCW and all that. So it's more so like an ideology battle, and Eddie Guerrero is a showman more so than the other two. So he's the WWF guy. Dean Malenko is more of like the wrestling type. So he's WCW. And Saturn's a fucking nut job, so he's a part of ECW. So you got WWF Guerrero, WCW Malenko, and ECW Saturn in a triple threat match. And that's basically my card. I mentioned before, this leads to kind of this whole idea that realistically WWE would not be able to sustain all these people for contracts, and there would be a series of matches over the course of the next couple of months or whatever that would be like, this is the last match that Lash LaRue is going to have, because nobody really needs to have Lash LaRue, and we're going to get rid of Evan Courageous, and we're going to get rid of I don't know, Chris Chetty, and so on and so forth. Eventually we'd have some kind of a thing with Survivor Series, because it is called Survivor Series, where that would be where you would kind of figure out who gets to keep their jobs and careers are on the line. And, you know, if you're the final survivor, you get to keep your job, and some different things like that. And the announcement of the draft and the brand split and the whole Raw and SmackDown. And if you could do it, a third brand that would probably, because we're in 2001, probably be called Extreme, where it's probably capital X Treme. You can kind of act like WCW is SmackDown, ECW is Extreme, and Raw is WWF. And then we have our things all set up, and we can lead to WrestleMania with Undertaker, Goldberg, Austin and Hogan, Triple H versus Kevin Nash, Booker T versus The Rock. Not too sure about tag teams, but you can fuck around with that. That's my fantasy booking.
Put a lot of thought into it.
The only thing I don't feel all that confident about is that whole Edge and Christian thing.
Yeah, it's like you stole some, like inadvertently stole a match from the actual Invasion card and just thought, just put it on there. No one's gonna notice.
I liked it. We have similar cards in some ways and drastically different in others.
Yeah, I imagine we're all going to be that sort of boy.
You know, I
mean, you guys, if you wanted to do Evan Courageous versus Goldberg, I mean...
Well, no, that's what they should have ended Nitro with.
Goldberg should have just been everybody in Nitro, one after the other, for the final episode. Just like game up to his record again.
Right. Just everybody runs into the ring, he spears them.
Yeah.
So, obviously, that's my card. Any other thoughts you guys have on my card?
And I think your booking influences are so clear from the hindsight of like, well, I know we're going with a brand split and even a 3-brand split, so we're gonna get there. Just doing it my own way.
Yeah, I kind of feel like you thought so much further ahead than probably both me and Rob did beyond this show.
I always like to plan ahead. I like to know if I were in WWF and if, by any chance, if I ended up getting some kind of a job there, you guys would know this for the future, which it's never going to happen, but let's just put that out there. If I were to be on the creative team, by the time the card would be set for WrestleMania, I would know what my card for the next WrestleMania would be. Unless, obviously, injuries or something get into the mix. And I would then backtrack and try to plan out my Survivor Series, my SummerSlam, and all that. Because it's like, yeah, I'll take a weekend, and I'll try to plan out a basic idea for the whole year, and, It's harder for me to do it like this, looking back in 2001, and not knowing where they were, compared to, like, what we have now. I can look at, like, this card right now for WrestleMania that we might get for 36 and be like, all right, Bray Wyatt against Roman Reigns, and like play around with that kind of thing, but I wouldn't book that match, by the way. I think that's a mistake. So who wants to go next?
Yeah, I'm interested.
Well, I'm going to have to eventually, so if you want me to go next, then I will.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll put mine in the context that I'm trying to do in the same way that Tony did. But my one is essentially Vince McMahon's purchased both WCW and ECW prior to WrestleMania. You have WrestleMania, and then Vince comes out the next night, and Vince does what he does. He says he wants competition, and he's brought in. He's worried about the fact that he thinks that the WWF guys are going to get complacent because there's no competition around anymore. So he's brought all these people in. So he brings in all the talent from, as much of the talent as he can from WCW and ECW. They, like, the first night of Raw after WrestleMania, they come in, they basically tear up the place under Vince McMahon's direction almost. And he basically announces that this is a chance for everyone to prove themselves to me before. And I'm going with the concept of after this show's just like, it doesn't have a lot of build to it. It's more just a case of a huge showcase of WWF versus WCW versus ECW in various matches. And then the night after that, they break up into their 3 separate shows or entities. And then they start doing things themselves. And then occasionally they'll be brought back together for these super shows. But this is just like the first shots fired. Just everyone gets to be in a big battle just to show how dominant they are. So there's no real implications or issues, no titles on the line, anything like that. It's just a chance to give the crowd what they wanted to see, which is just all of these guys fighting each other in various different forms. So I might be cheating a little bit in that regard to try and just basically push this outside of the storyline aspect of it. But the storyline is that this is just a big blow off before they all go into their own separate ways and then come back every now and again for shows of this nature to prove dominance, like the what Survivor Series is now, or the what was the other one they used to do?
Bragging Rights.
Bragging Rights, yeah. So that type of thing. Name. So in terms of what we got going, I've got 14 matches broken down. So again, it's going to be quite a big show, but I'm going again more with the concept of it's the Attitude Era. Usually put good matches together in under 10 minutes or whatever. So some of these matches will be pretty short. Other matches will be longer and given a lot more time. I have a lot more, I guess, like singles matches than I think Tony had put together, but I also have a lot more clusterfuck matches as well. So gonna go for a bit. It's gonna go a bit up and down. It definitely wouldn't be a card that I'd book nowadays, but I think it fits in the Attitude Era vibe. So on Heat, there's going to be a Battle Royal, because of course there is. A 21-man Battle Royal with 7 representatives from each show. I've taken the WrestleMania nowadays approach of trying to put everybody on the card in some form or fashion into it. But that's because there are some big names in this Battle Royal, so the big shows in this Battle Royal with WWF, with Al Snow, Billy Gunn, Test, Albert, William Regal, and Val Venus. While WCW is represented by Bam Bam Bigelow, Lex Luger, Buff Bagwell, Disco Inferno, Canyon, Shane Douglas, and Sid Vicious. While ECW is represented by Steve Corino, New Jack, Mikey Whipwreck, C.W. Anderson, Stevie Richards, Blue Meanie, and Balls Mahoney. And I'd probably go with the Big Show winning just because it's the Big Show, but it doesn't really matter too much to me who would win. You might want to do like a funny one and have Disco Inferno win, just to make it a bit more of a joke. And then another match on Heat would be a women's, I guess, elimination bra and panties style match, and it would have like, I know I feel disgusting saying this stuff now in 2019, but this is again 2001. That's the only thing that people wanted to see from these type of matches.
Yeah, and you gotta play into that.
So it'd be a 10-woman thing. So the 10 women that I had written down, it's just a mixture of people from WWF, WCW, and ECW. So it's Trish versus Lita versus Chyna versus Ivory versus Molly Holly versus Stacey Keebler versus Tori Wilson versus Daphne versus Jazz versus Francine. Just because, even though I could put some of the hotter women in, because I guess most people wouldn't want to see Jazz or Francine in their bra and not Francine obviously, but Jazz or Daphne in their bra and panties. It's just like, at least there might be some decent wrestling in between this as well. So you get the best of both worlds. If you think this is sexist, you get Jazz wrestling and Molly Holly wrestling, and that's great. And if you're only interested in TNA, then you got Trish and Stacey and Tori, and it's all good. So I probably would have them all just beat up Chyna to start with, and then Chyna just finds herself outside the ring, and then they just do a few eliminations of different people that they don't really care about too much, and then Chyna comes in, cleans house, and wins in the end because she is the women's champion and the most dominant one out of all of them. So yeah, that would get the women's segment out of the way. Then we have a very TNA match, which is a 6-way cruiserweight match. Just a battle between some of the top cruiserweights. So representing WWF, we have X-Pac and Crash Holly. Representing ECW, Jerry Lynn and Tajiri. And WCW, Shane Helms and Chavo Guerrero. And we just have an elimination match between all of these ones. A very like TNA X Division type showcase where they'll get a bit of offense in, and then it's just down to the final two. I probably would end it with, realistically, I think the best two wrestlers. Well, realistically, the best two wrestlers are both Jerry Lynn and Tajiri, but I wouldn't have two ECW guys in the final one. So it'd probably be Tajiri against Shane Helms or Tajiri against Chavo. I'd have the WWF guys both eliminated, not fairly quickly, but even though X-Pac is probably the biggest deal out of all of this, I just don't think he's a strong enough. It wasn't a strong enough wrestler at this point in time. And also he'd get booed all the way. And you kind of want to have a bit more fun towards the end of it. After that, we have a tag team match, which is a bit, again, it's Edge and Christian, and I don't like this is the match that I'm also a bit like arguing about, but it's against Booker T and DDP. So I really wanted to put Booker T and DDP in singles matches, but I kind of was in the mindset of having watched the 2001 stuff. Booker T and DDP are two of the biggest, if not the biggest stars that WCW could put together nowadays, or in terms of like what they actually could do after the invasion. And they're just like, they're a bit weak in terms of their like presentation when they come onto the WWF roster. And maybe that was clouding my vision a little bit. But Booker T's always been primarily, at least at this point in his career, he'd only just gotten into the main event scene, had been primarily a tag team guy for most of his career. And DDP, I think him and Booker would be just a nice babyface tag team to go against the heel shtick of Edge and Christian. Because I keep Edge and Christian as being heels at this point in time. I think that's obviously like a good point to reference the fact that nobody's like, it's not a case of like heels and faces. It doesn't really matter too much on this show. It's just you're backing whichever brand you want to win. So Edge and Christian can play heel in this match. Booker T and DDP can be the gutsy baby faces going up against them. And I'd probably have Edge and Christian win because they're the legitimate tag team out of the two of them, because I don't see Booker T and DDP being a long-term tag team. But it was just a way of getting them both onto the card because I didn't find many other places for them, which I thought fit them well enough. Then we have a big man match between Kane and Kevin Nash. I don't like the fact that I put Kevin Nash in a singles match because I hate Kevin Nash, as has been well documented and all this stuff. And this match would suck because Kevin Nash is in it and he only knows 5 moves. But Kane was like good and powerful enough at the time to carry it to a certain degree. And Kevin Nash has always perennially been over despite his limitations. So I thought he needed to have a singles match, and he probably would win this match against Kane as well. I mean, I wanted to put Kevin Nash against Big Show at one point, but then I realised, okay, Kevin Nash can't do the jackknife on Big Show anymore. Especially the 2001 Big Show, you definitely can't do the jackknife on him. So at least he'd be able to powerbomb Kane probably, because Kane was flexible enough and thin enough to do it. Then we have again, another clusterfuck type match. A 9-man, so it's 3 versus 3 versus 3 table elimination match. And obviously, the Dudleys are in this match representing ECW. So it's Bubba Ray, Devon, and Spike Dudley representing ECW. And then on the WWF side of things, we have the Radicals of Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, and Perry Saturn. And on WCW, we have the Filthy Animals of Rey Mysterio, Billy Kidman, and Conan. I just thought it'd be a nice, like, just high spot type match. I wouldn't, because the show's already going to go pretty long regardless, I probably would just have one table elimination for each team rather than have 8 separate table eliminations between the start and the finish. And you probably would just have the Dudleys win because they are the masters of the tables. I'm pretty sure Rey Mysterio or Billy Kidman would do a really good table spot with Bubba Ray Dudley through the table with the powerbomb. And obviously, either Eddie or... I assume they'd put Perry Saturn through the table. And knowing 2001, they'd do it head first as well. So...
Jesus Christ.
Well, his entire storyline in 2001 is that he suffered a concussion and that made him funny. So that's like... I think that's a good way of just utilising all their talents in a nice little, just fun, quick elimination style match. I wanted
Terry go through a table.
Would
Terry go through one?
Nah, Terry wouldn't go through one. I don't think. I think once the women's match out of the way, I wouldn't put too many other like women in the vicinity really too much. I don't. Obviously, it's 2001, so she probably would do if Vince McMahon was booking it, but I'm not like that. I don't like seeing men put women through tables, so I probably wouldn't do that. I wanted to put Eddie Guerrero in a singles match because it's Eddie Guerrero, but I have to at least measure the idea of it's 2001 and he's not that big a deal yet. So you have to put him in just a bit more of a filler match. Then we have one which I think most people would disagree with, but I kind of like the concept of it. So it's the Undertaker, American Badass Undertaker. And he's essentially looking for a fight with the toughest guy that he could possibly get in a match with. And so his opponent is Rhino. I think ECW Rhino was built like an absolute machine. And he was somebody who was ultra violent, would attack people from any angle with the gore, would use that vicious pile driver that he had. I mean, I think when me and Rob watched the final ECW pay-per-view they did, that was essentially what Rhino's role was just to destroy everybody.
Yeah. So
you have that Rhino, and it's different from the Rhino that we ended up getting, the watered-down Rhino that we get with like WWF going forward and into WWE. This is him at his peak, and I would have him beat the Undertaker because I think you need to start building some guys up as being big deals, and the Undertaker can take a loss, especially if it's in his badass like his American Badass persona, and it establishes well. And also Undertaker deserves it because he fucked DDP's career, so he deserves to take a job on this show if I'm booking it. But I understand most people probably would prefer him to be up against Sting or Goldberg or something like that. But I think putting him up against the young guy is a bit a better use of the Undertaker going forward. Then we have Vince McMahon himself gets in on the action, even though he's the one who's kind of building all this thing, because he said that he wanted one match at this show to prove his dominance once and for all, and that was against Eric Bischoff 1-on-1 in a street fight.
Because
because they said that, I mean, throughout 90, I think from 97 onwards, maybe into like 99 or 2000 even, Eric Bischoff did segments on Nitro where he would challenge Vince McMahon to matches. And so Vince McMahon says, your wish is finally granted. And if he even puts the stakes of, if Bischoff wins, he gets to take over the company, like the whole company. But naturally, Bischoff has a few tricks up his sleeve. He uses Ernest the Cat Miller to interfere on his behalf to try and get things sorted. But Vince overcomes it with help of, I would imagine like someone like the Big Show would probably come down after winning the Battle Royal to support Vince McMahon, take down everybody, and then Vince would pin Bischoff because he now owns him, so he can do that. If you're wondering where Paul Heyman is, he's sitting on commentary with JR because I thought they were the best commentary pair available. And I'm taking the mindset that Jerry Lawler got fired still. So, or at least he actually quit. But
so I guess that was a direct response to 2019. Jerry Lawler?
No, I just prefer JR and Paul Heyman together as a commentary team. I don't really mind. It's not like I care too much for Lawler nowadays, but that didn't really play into my mindset for it. Then we have a 6-man tag team match this is the big, like, okay, we're gonna sit down for 20 minutes and watch a bunch of guys wrestle for a while, which is Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, and Chris Jericho versus Rob Van Dam, Lance Storm, and Taz. In an ideal world, if I had like 18 or 20 matches on this card, I'd put them all in singles matches against each other. But I thought this is a good way to get the real best out of all of them so they wouldn't do any rest holds or anything like that. It would just be a total sprint with all of their high spots against each other. And yeah, I needed to have these guys wrestle against each other because they're just probably the 6 best technical wrestlers on either side of things. And Lance Storm obviously has the connection to ECW, even though he's a WCW guy, and Taz would be back in ECW, even though he was a WWF guy. So you shuffle the deck a little bit. And I wouldn't have Benoit and Jericho obviously side over to the WCW thing. I think with the way they left WCW to join WWF, it's pretty clear where their bread is buttered. So I'd stick them to the WWF side and have this match. And I'd probably have the WWF team win by beating Taz because Taz had already been beaten into the ground by this point with WWF, so it wouldn't really matter too much if he lost. And he was pretty much on the way out of his in-ring career as well by this point in time, so it doesn't hurt him if Benoit makes him tap out or something like that. Singles match, Triple H with Shane and Stephanie McMahon in his corner versus Sting with Ric Flair in his corner.
Does Ric Flair turn?
No. Because basically my mindset is that Sting and Ric Flair will head over to the WCW side when the breakup of all different shows happens at the end of this. So they'd stay together. But my original plan was to have Triple H against Ric Flair. But then I kind of recall, and I'm trying to play this like fairly accurately, that this was at a point in time where Ric Flair was very self-conscious about his wrestling ability and especially his look. Like I think is obviously well documented because the last match that he had on WCW Nitro, he wrestled in a t-shirt because he just thought that his body looked hideous at this point in time. So instead, he'll be doing the managerial duty, and we actually get the real Sting versus Triple H match.
Sting wins.
I don't know actually because I don't really think it matters too much. I would have Sting win because, again, he's a big star and Triple H is already well established, so it doesn't really hurt him to lose this match. And, you probably have some fun spot with Ric Flair attacking Shane McMahon on the outside. Shane could do a huge bump through a table or something. But, yeah, and Sting just makes Triple H tap out to the Scorpion or does the death drop or something. But I think, especially at this point in time in their careers, because Triple H was pretty untouchable in the ring at this point in time, and Sting is a very fiery babyface, so Triple H could easily play the heel against him for this one.
What type of Sting?
Crow Sting. Yeah, Crow Sting.
Yeah.
Okay. And Black Scorpion Ric Flair, right?
No, not Black Scorpion Ric Flair. It'd be suited and booted Ric Flair with the still probably has that short hair from like the final days of WCW.
Well, by creative control is changing that shit. That was.
Well, obviously he's gonna get busted open in this as well. Obviously, so.
Oh yes.
He'll probably do that walking down the fucking ramp.
No, I think both Triple H and Ric Flair are going to have a competition during this match about which one can bleed the most. Then we have what I've dubbed hardcore warfare. Because I wanted to do War Games, but then I thought I'm going to have 15 men in this match, and even with 2 rings, that's going to be a bit of a tight squeeze. So I thought instead, let's go the ECW route instead of the WCW route, and just have a bunch of guys have a giant hardcore match against each other. So it's still 5 versus 5 versus 5, but it's just like there's weapons strewn all over ringside, and like you can fight all over the arena, and it's falls count anywhere, and it's elimination. So you basically, this is like a typical hardcore match that you would get in WWF in the 2000s and in the early 2000s. So representing WWF, co-captained by the APA. They would be joined by Steve Blackman, Hardcore Holly, and Rikishi. WCW, captained by Jeff Jarrett, would be him obviously, Chronic, Hugh Morris, and Dustin Rhodes. And then ECW, captained by Raven, would be him, Tommy Dreamer, Sandman, Mike Awesome, and Masato Tanaka. Because it's basically an ECW environment match, I would have ECW win this. I don't know who it would come down to. Maybe something like Mike Awesome doing a giant powerbomb through tons of tables on Hugh Morris or something. I'm definitely putting Mike Awesome onto the ECW side because he didn't mean anything in WCW. So
that's funny. You know, he's one of the few names from the ECW side that I kept representing WCW because I feel like WCW did see the value in him. It's just that they ultimately decided, we should color you and make you a guy that likes fat chicks. But I kept him in WCW.
Well, I think that he was a bigger deal in ECW, so I wanted to... Basically, if he's going to be splitting off into those different brands afterwards, he needs to be... I think he could be a big deal in ECW, like be one of their... Well, he was champion for a long time there, and he could be a champion again on that side of things, whereas I don't think he fits that much into the WWF and WCW side of things.
Fair.
So I might make him like the star of this match, and obviously putting him together in a team with Masato Tanaka after all their wars together, I think was probably a nice touch as well. And I thought that would give them more room to work with as opposed to being confined within a steel cage.
Curious about something.
5-on-5-on-5,
false count anywhere. How do you have the referees control all of that if they're all over the place?
You just have 6 or 7 referees. Basically.
And it's like pinfalls can, like multiple pinfalls at the same time type of thing?
Yeah. I mean, obviously you try and structure it in terms of the booking of the match to try and separate the pinfalls out a little bit. But I'd have like some pinfalls happen behind the stage, some like just in the crowd, some in the ring. You would just try and treat it like, that 2000 hardcore battle royal they did at WrestleMania 2000.
Yeah, I enjoy that one.
Yeah, so there must have been about like 5 or 6 referees just following the action around. So I think you could probably get away with this one, especially if you take the idea that Vince, when he's bought everyone, has hired all the WCW referees and all the ECW referees. You just basically get them all out for this one.
I'm gonna have to shoot Jim a text message, Jim Molyneux, and be like, "Yo, Jim, would you do this match?"
Well, he wouldn't have to do it.
I think he'd be the only one that would be like capable.
For the ECW side.
He'd be capable of doing it.
And then we have, again, benefit of hindsight. We know this match is good. Rock versus Hulk Hogan.
All right, so I'll spoil something right now. We all have Rock versus Hogan on our card.
Oh, that's weird.
I just think it's it's a match that's even though the match quality itself doesn't. Well, they've shown the match quality doesn't matter for this match. It's going to get a huge reaction because it's Hulk Hogan versus The Rock. So I thought that would be better than, like Tony says, stall the other ones for further down the road. Then, as a buffer match between that and the main event, I guess say who would win that. I'd have Rock win that match. Because I think Hogan would be better as a guy who's having to, especially if it's NWO Hogan, at this point in time, he could go on a bit of not so much a losing streak, but need to rediscover the red and white to become a top star again. So having him lose against The Rock could be a start of that journey. Then there's a buffer match between that and the main event. We have the Hardy Boys versus the Steiner Brothers. I wanted to go as a singles tag team match because I think the Hardy Boys being like daredevils and high flyers would be a big foil, like a good foil to the Steiner Brothers, essentially just throwing them around the ring constantly. So, and then you get to see the Frankensteiner spot and everything like that because Scott Steiner is still pulling that off today, so why would he avoid not doing it for this match? So, and I'd have the Steiners win because they're the more dominant of the two, tag teams. And the Hardys, they're pretty much Teflon at this point in time. And then the main event, again, go down Tony's route. It's not original, but it's Stone Cold versus Goldberg because essentially you could put anything underneath it and sell the entire card on Stone Cold versus Goldberg, and people would buy it in their shitloads.
Well, hold on. Once again, we also all have Austin versus Goldberg.
I think that's just the obvious match. It's the match that never happened that everyone wanted to happen. So, like Tony, I would have Goldberg win this match because Goldberg needs to be the top star of the WCW brand that they're going to build off the back of this because he is the most overstar that they have. And Stone Cold can take the loss. He's already turned heel. I wouldn't change, even though that was terrible for business. I wouldn't change it, at least at this point, so he can play heel in this match against Goldberg. Then eventually you would come to your senses and turn Stone Cold babyface once the brand splits happened. But yeah, I just think it's the fitting end to do it. And I agree with Tony with the idea that Goldberg isn't really a big feud guy. He's more of just a one match and then move on to the next guy. So this is will be one and done for them pretty much, unless you rebuild like a rematch for 2 or 3 years down the line. But yeah, that's pretty much my card. It's like quite a big mix of a few big singles matches and then just a ton of clusterfuck matches.
I like it though.
I think it fits into the time.
Yeah, I think it fits into the time a lot more than mine does.
I think, obviously, there's some people that I would have liked to do better with. I would like to put Booker T and DDP in a more prominent match, but I just couldn't find any good place. It was either that or they would be in that hardcore battle thing, and I think putting them in an actual just tag team match together gives them a bit more of a spotlight than that match would do. And so, and then I know people will probably shit on the idea of Rhino being in a match with The Undertaker, but at this point in time, at least by the end of ECW, Rhino was the biggest deal coming out of ECW, so it would make sense in that context.
What's the match that you're the most happy about and the one that you are the least happy about?
The one I'm most happy about is probably outside of the main ones, which are pretty obvious. It would be the 6-man tag. So Angle, Jericho, and Benoit versus RVD, Storm, and Taz. Because even though I know that's they would all have really good singles matches against each other, I think putting them in a 6-man allows them to just rest up on the apron and then just go balls to the wall when they're in the ring. So it would actually maybe lead to an even more entertaining match than any singles match they could put against each other. Especially if you take the concept that essentially the one constant in WWE throughout the years is multi-man tag team matches are pretty good. So the one that's the least appealing, well, at least for an in-ring standpoint, is definitely Kevin Nash against Kane. But other than that, it would probably be Edge and Christian versus Booker T and DDP just because it's a little bit uninspired.
God, that Kevin Nash and Kane match with 2 Diesels going at it. Oh.
Well, I think Kane. They could build a feud of the idea that Kevin Nash runs on diesel and Kane runs on coal. So
Nice.
sorry.
I guess it's my turn, huh?
yeah, gotta close off with the real main event.
I booked 3 cards. Like, I started and I just kept going, and I booked the Invasion pay-per-view, the pay-per-view after it, and got the key matches set for the Mania for the following year. So let's start with, how do we start the war? ECW is done after the January pay-per-view. That stays the same. Nitro still ends the Monday before Mania, but it goes off the air. There's no Vince McMahon promo, and think the original, like, what Bischoff was going to do with Fusion Media. So think the Big Bang. They're just going to go off the air. We don't know what's going to happen. Austin and Rock, headline Mania. There's no heel turn because I'm not stupid. McMahon, who did not fight Shane. That's another thing I'm changing right off the bat. Didn't do Shane. Didn't make out with Trish in front of his comatose wife. McMahon comes running frantically from the back, and he's like, oh my God, you guys, you gotta help. They look at him confused. Austin turns around, eats a spear from Goldberg. Rock's like, what the hell is this? Hogan hits him with a chair. Over on the ramp, Sting pops up behind McMahon. Scorpion death drop. WrestleMania is off the air. What the fuck is going on? So ECW, basically what's going to happen with them is exactly as it happened. It's going to be, everybody's forgotten the Tribe of Extreme. Douglas is going to defect from WCW because he is ECW through and through. Dudleys are going to defect because we need a big tag team. Lance Storm is defecting. Just Incredible defecting. Ryven and Reno also defecting. All right.
Ryven and Reno.
Right, yeah. What did I say? Oh my God.
Ryven and Reno.
Oh my God.
They're like knockoff Mortal Kombat characters.
Raven and Rhino are also defecting. So, kind of in the vein of you guys, there's not going to be any definitive heels. It's all a brand thing, except nobody who's a mega baby face really trusts Bischoff, Heyman, or Vince. We're just getting a lot of fiery promos. You know, Heyman's going out Bischoff. You tried to fuck over my life. Vince is just saying, you know, who the hell do either one of you think you are? I own everything. This is my world. You're just allowed to play in it. Undertaker, conscience of the WWF. He is the badass, even though I don't like that character as much. I'm sticking true to the times. He's going to be giving a lot of rah-rah speeches. Flair is going to be rallying the WCW troops. And Paul Heyman and Shane Douglas are going to be rallying the ECW side of things. All right, let's get into this card, and I will explain how these matches came together. Guys, got any questions? Go ahead and throw them in. Only heat segment I have for sure is Psycho Sid coming out and saying, I was in all 3 promotions. I'm going to throw out an open challenge. This is, you know, I can do whatever I want. I was WWF champion, WCW champion. I was in ECW. This is my world. First match on the card, Sid's open challenge. Big Show answers it. Big Show wins. How does he win? Sid teases, jumping off the top rope, lands on his feet, gets caught with a choke slam. 1, 2, 3.
I think you're gonna say breaks his leg.
I thought you were gonna say Sid jumps on the top rope, breaks his leg, and Big Show gets it.
No.
We're both sitting there waiting with bated breath, just being like, did he really just woke up?
No.
I put
So,
the guy to break his leg.
So, next match is a triangle elimination Lucha showcase match between Eddie Guerrero representing WWE, Rey Mysterio representing WCW, and Super Crazy. And that is won by Rey Mysterio, who will have a back and forth with Eddie. Super Crazy will get eliminated early, not too early, but obviously it's got to come down to Eddie and Rey because that's where your bread is buttered and that's where the magic happens. All right, Hardys versus Shane Helms, Shannon Moore versus York and Matthews. We know that all 6 of these guys can go. This is going to be just a very well-wrestled tag match. It's all, fun, kind of like Tony's Hardy's tag match where they respect each other. Everything's on the up and up. The Hardys win because they are the most over act in this match. All right, it is 2001. And I was looking at the women and I said, what am I going to do here? I ended up going with an intergender Lumberjack / Lumberjill match because it's going to be Chyna versus Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett left the WWF after holding Vince McMahon hostage because Vince wanted him to put Chyna over. So obviously when he comes back, first thing you see him do is spin Chyna around and hit her over the head with the guitar. There's a lot of slap nuts references in the build up to this. There's even moments where Chyna references, if I did have one, it'd be bigger than yours. Lots of just weird 2001 bullshit. Jeff Jarrett wins this match. He's going to get the better of Chyna because Jarrett is going to be the bigger star going forward. Chyna's not going to disappear, but Jarrett needs to win this one. All right. A call your shot 15-man battle royal. There's a lot of championships in play, and I'm not getting rid of any of them, but whoever wins this match can pick whatever championship from whatever brand he wants to challenge for. There's representing WWF, Shane McMahon, Mark Henry, Rikishi, William Regal, and X-Pac. Representing WCW, we have Canyon, Bam Bam Bigelow, Buff Bagwell, Mike Awesome, and Lex Luger. Representing ECW, we've got Rhino, Masato Tanaka, Jerry Lynn, Steve Corino, and Shane Douglas. Rhino's in this match, even though he's the ECW champion, because obviously he can challenge for whatever WCW or WWF title he wants. All right, so throughout this match, you have certain interesting aspects playing. Shane McMahon and Lex Luger are enemies. Lex is kind of hunting Shane down because, Lex turned on Vince. This whole thing with the Monday Night War started with Lex Luger defecting, and one of the first things you saw on the Raw after Mania was Lex Luger comes back and Vince McMahon's like, you son of a bitch, I'm gonna get you. You tried to ruin my life. And he's 6-boy wonder on Lex Luger in this battle royal. Masato Tanaka and Mike Awesome are in this match. At some point in this match, everybody's getting laid out, and Tanaka and Awesome are going to do their thing because that was the best feud in the latter days of ECW. Same thing with Jerry Lynn and X-Pac. They started their careers together. They very well need to have a moment together. The match is won when Lex Luger throws Shane McMahon over the top to win it. He's going to challenge for the WWF title at the next pay-per-view, which I'm guessing would be Judgment Day. Let's just call it Judgment Day. Any questions so far? 5 matches into this 10-match card?
Still curious where Riven is coming in.
So, Riven and Reno are fired.
I have to ask the question, which, considering the shape that Lex Luger is in at this point in this the spectrum of time, why did you have him challenge for the WWF Championship?
Because I'm getting that Vince McMahon is going to fuck him over and send him packing. This is his last hurrah, but he's going to go away fairly quickly. But I did want to, out of respect for everything he had done building up to this, I didn't want to just go, yeah, but he was kind of in shambles. I'll just throw him. He'll be one of the Lumberjacks, and that's it.
Fair enough.
All right, we got a 10-team tag team turmoil match. The match starts with the Filthy Animals versus the APA. APA gets it. Out next, Simon and Swinger of ECW. They get the better of the APA, and they're like, aha, we beat the APA, we're so good. Chronic comes out, they get the shit kicked out of them fairly quickly. Out next come the Radicals of Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn. They beat Chronic, they beat Danny Doring and Roadkill, and they beat the Natural Born Thrillers, but they lose to the Unholy Alliance of Whipwreck and Tajiri, who will then lose to Edge and Christian, who are out next. And the final team in this turmoil is the Impact players of Lance Storm and Just Incredible. They have like a killer 8 to 10 minute match with Edge and Christian. Edge and Christian wins, and the crowd goes home happy.
Can I ask this point here? Did you just do that because that would make it the world's biggest tag team turmoil match in history?
I did not,
because it has 10 teams rather than the 9 that was in the previous one.
I thought about it, but I thought 10 was a nice solid number. And to be honest, this was one where I was having a hard time because I wanted to get too cool, and then I looked through my whole card and I said the APA should be featured somewhere. This one was harder to work with. All right. Next, we have a grudge match. Triple H with Stephanie McMahon versus Kevin Nash with DDP. So, again, first Raw after Mania, Diamond Dallas Page through the crowd, Diamond Cutter on Vince as he's giving Lex Luger the business. I'm going to run you down. I'm going to do this. Spins him around, Diamond Cutter. Well, we can't have that. I'm going to, next Friday on SmackDown, I'm going to sick my son-in-law on you. Triple H gets ready to nail him with a sledgehammer. Out comes Kevin Nash. What happened to you, man? What are you, in the office now? You sold out. What happened to you? We used to be above just being a sheep for the office, stuff like that. And throughout this whole thing, Stephanie keeps, protecting Hunter. So Nash says, you know what? You keep slapping me. You keep trying to prevent me from getting my hands on him. DDP is going to be in my corner, and he's going to watch you. It broke my heart to not put DDP in a more prominent match, but there were just bigger issues that needed to go down first. So he's in the corner of Nash, who he was teaming with at the time. How does this match go down? Referee bump. Stephanie brings in the sledgehammer. DDP takes it out of her hand, spins her around, Diamond Cutter on Stephanie. Crowd goes crazy. Triple H hits DDP with sledgehammer. Nash, big boot, goes for the powerbomb. Triple H, sledgehammer to the quad. Pedigree, 1, 2, 3. Triple H wins because you gotta have some realism in there, folks. You can't just,
I mean, the most realistic about that was they hit him with the sledgehammer and then hit him with his move afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, clearly that's more powerful than the
yeah,
sledgehammer.
exactly.
Absolutely, you can't. Nobody kicks out of the pedigree. You can kick out of the sledgehammer. Rock versus Hogan. This goes down exactly like it did at WrestleMania 18, except no weird, hey, I'm gonna kill you with a semi-truck or anything like that. Just a lot of trash talking. You're eating a Hulk sandwich, Hulk of this, Hulk of that. I debated as to whether or not it was going to be black and white Hogan or red and yellow Hogan. I'm going with black and white because of what I want to set up for the next show. But it's Hollywood Hogan, who is going to win against The Rock. He is going to beat The Rock, build back some credibility in the eyes of WWF audience who, either thinks he's old or maybe never even seen a Hogan match. I highly doubt that was possible at the time, but you never know. All right, now we have the match of the badasses. As you guys have said, this was on your card as well. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Goldberg. However, mine is different in that Austin's going to have McMahon in his corner, begrudgingly, and Goldberg's going to have Bischoff in his corner, also begrudgingly. Why? So that when there's a schmoz and McMahon and Bischoff are going at it, they're going to inadvertently save Austin from a spear because Goldberg's going to run into Bischoff. turns around, eats a stunner. Stone Cold Steve Austin wins because Austin is going to next year's WrestleMania fight Hulk Hogan. And also, Austin's the WWF champion. If Goldberg pins the WWF champion, he would be next in line for a title shot. And I'm going to do that quick. Vince fucks over Lex Luger, gets him out of there. And Goldberg's going to be all right. I've got a really cool match for him at the next show. All right. The inaugural Brawl, 5-on-5-on-5, double ring war games. The rules of this war games, obviously one man starts for each team, 2.5-minute intervals. I'm stealing one from TNA when everybody's in the ring because ECW is in there. The roof is going to lower down with weapons. And every team has to be eliminated, and we're not going to have 14 eliminations, but one pin per team will do it. Notable things in this war game: gonna have Jericho, RVD, and Booker start because they're 3 solid hands who can easily get the crowd pumped. Angle's in last for WWF and goes full on wrestling machine, suplexing everybody. Sandman comes in last for the ECW side, who brings his cane with him, beats the shit out of everybody. And there's going to be a huge pop for Flair, huge pop for Sting. Let me go back because I did not say who was in this one. Just realized that. Team WWF is Taker, Kane, Benoit, Angle, Jericho. Another weird thing. We all had Benoit, Angle, Jericho teaming together. Team WCW is Flair, Booker T, Sting, and the Steiners. And Team ECW is Dreamer, Sandman, Dudleys, and Van Dam. All right, so Sting is in last. He's the last entrant completely. I'm going, even though obviously the Owen Hart thing had already happened and safety issues, the visual of Sting rappelling down into the cage is too cool not to do. So it's my world. We're going to do that. And Sting comes in with the ball bat, starts beating the shit out of everybody. And then the weapons lower, all hell breaks loose. Throughout the entire match, you have are Benoit and Jericho going to defect? They were in WCW. They were in ECW. Flair's been sitting there like, Benoit, you're badass. You were a horseman. We've been in war games together. You don't have to be working for Vince McMahon. So throughout that whole thing that's playing, what's going to end up happening here is 3D through the table for Rick Steiner. Sandman's going to get into it with the Undertaker, who's going to throw him around a little bit. Dreamer's going to eat the pin for Team ECW. He's going to be pinned by Booker T, who's going to hit a scissors kick, because Booker T is still WCW champion. He's got to, look strong. It's going to come down to WWF versus WCW. Accidentally, Benoit is going to hit Undertaker with a chair, and Flair's going to put him in the figure 4 and pin his shoulders down because he's knocked out. Like Flair, Taker's obviously not going to tap. He's too much of a badass for that. But Flair's going to get the win in his domain of war games. And now it's, oh, shit. Did Benoit need to do that? So that's my night for this first inaugural fight. For my big matches immediately made for the next pay-per-view are going to be Triple H versus Sting, because Sting is he hasn't said a word. I'm going with full-on 1996. I'm silent but deadly, and I'm only targeting Vince McMahon. So once again, unfortunately, Triple H has to do his father-in-law's bidding. Dudleys and Steiners for the tag team titles of WCW. That would have changed hands at some point. Benoit and Flair are going to have a match with Shane Douglas on the outside. Going to do WWF tag titles versus ECW tag titles. Edge and Christian versus the Impact players. Because I really think those teams would have done well together. Goldberg versus Kurt Angle. Because hell yeah. gonna merge the hardcore title with the ECW
merge.
title and do Kane versus Rhino. Because I think that'd be a really good match. The WCW title is going to be our first triple threat for the second pay-per-view, where it'll be Booker T defending against Chris Jericho and Van Dam. Another triple threat we're going to do is Taker, Tommy Dreamer, and DDP, so kind of like the people's champions for the three brands. Lex Luger is going to get beaten by Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's the only decision I've made for the second show, because we're getting Lex Luger out of there. As a buffer match between that match and the main event, we have Hardys and Lita versus Jarrett, Bagwell, and Tori, just because. And the main event of that second pay-per-view will be Vince McMahon and The Rock versus Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff. And all of this, which would probably culminate at Survivor Series, where there can only be one, where everybody kind of gets merged into the WWF. All this will lead to next year's Mania, which I had the pillar matches of Hogan Austin, Taker Goldberg, The Rock and Sting, and Ric Flair with the Horsemen, which at this point would be Benoit, Malenko, and Arn, versus Triple H, who at this point would have the full clique of Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and X-Pac. That is my full booking of the first Invasion card, the second one, and then blueprints for the Mania to follow. What do you guys think?
Why Rock and Sting for Mania?
Because I feel like this would have been a really fun match. I think Rock would have had fun with Sting, being like, look at you paint your face all white, you look like The Rock after he's just had a whole load of pie. And it'll just be a lot of fun, and Sting is always good with charismatic guys. Rock can easily take on the Ric Flair heel role if he needs to, begging off and overselling for stuff like the Stinger Splash. And I think those two would have good chemistry together.
It would be interesting if you go with the approach that Sting is completely mute and The Rock is The Rock, so...
The total opposite.
Yeah.
Well, I think by the time we get to Mania, Sting would have started to speak, but for the initial introduction of the character, I wanted that, he's not doing anything, but when he shows up, he's pointing a bat at Vince or he's beating Vince up. This is because he's Sting and he wants to destroy Vince McMahon for essentially taking away the WCW.
Yeah, I think the card works out very well. Obviously, you've planned a lot further ahead with stuff. I still, even though you have explained it to me, I still don't buy into the Lex Luger challenging for the WWF Championship.
So my initial, because a lot of things changed. Initially, I had a triple threat on here that had Taz versus Shane Douglas versus Mike Awesome, because Taz was ECW champion on WWF TV. Mike Awesome brought it to WCW, and Shane Douglas was, just ECW's guy. I decided to lump that into this Call Your Shot Battle Royal, which was initially going to be Shane McMahon wins and is going to try to win the WCW title and make a fool out of WCW. And then I thought, I really want to do this thing where, you kind of tie up that loose end of Luger, because Luger just kind of goes away. He's one of those guys that doesn't get a good farewell. DDP, you can argue, yeah, he was the stalker, but at least you saw him and he went away. Luger just sort of fades into obscurity. So I just wanted to tie up that loose end.
Do we all have it to where Shane isn't the owner of WCW?
Oh yeah, that's fucking stupid. I like Shane and Vince together. I really like when he's doing I gotta please my dad and I gotta be the boy wonder for my dad. So I think that would be the best utilization of Shane McMahon.
Yeah, I don't really have Shane too much involved. I kind of put him back into the corporate alliance at some point, and my way going forward is just Vince is in control, and then he just devolved power into the 3 separate shows once they become their own entities, with him being the grand overlord who just wants to see essentially one that eventually, after years and years, come forward as the dominant victor. So he just like a master manipulator at the top of it, where he has Bischoff running the WCW side of things and Heyman running the ECW side of things, and then maybe Shane and Stephanie or something like that running the WWF side.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'd end up, sort of.
Mm.
I'd have more of the Flair instead of the Bischoff side at the end of it, with my whole, like, you know, turning on Bischoff and all that, because I kind of was thinking ahead about the idea that Bischoff might not want to be there, and
well, a lot of the people we've got on this card didn't want to be there at that point in time. They wanted to just be sitting on their ass. But we have power at this point. So.
And I felt like it was respectful to say, I'm bringing Hall in, but I'll wait till next year's Mania, because then, like, he was legally freed up and he was in the company. So I feel,
that makes sense.
You know, there was a lot of, like, parts here where you go, man, I want Edge in a good match because I know what Edge is going to be.
Yeah.
But I've got to keep Edge as
at
Edge
2001 Edge.
Like, the air raid was almost in the tag team turmoil just to have AJ Styles on the card, because I know what AJ Styles is going to be. But I like what I ended up doing here. The only thing I wouldn't know what to do with is, how do you eventually merge all the titles?
Champions Night. Some kind of Clash of Champions, Night of Champions, champion versus champion, bragging rights, like whatever it is, like you just you have a pay-per-view that's like champion versus champion.
Like, I still have them as separate entities for a while, so they just all have their own championships. So
you could, I mean, if you had like the brand split type of thing, if like not necessarily a brand split, but like if you had that like that, I mean, nothing's stopping you from having the WCW United States Championship.
Yeah.
Instead of the WWF, and you know.
And in my universe, we know how to book a brand split correctly without having to like completely dilute the entire thing. So
or do things like what they're doing with Survivor Series now, where it's like, let's have Brock win this, and then he's going to move over to this brand, and it's not going to be the world champions against each other, but we're going to move this, and we got the women's tag titles, and we're going to wait half a year to actually pop up on NXT, and like
we just bring them all together, and then they're just given some. Like, from this first show, they give some of both the ECW and WCW sides a bit more of a boost early on, and then it becomes just a bit more of an even playing field going forward. Maybe with WWF a little bit further ahead, just because, you know, it's still Vince McMahon we're dealing with, and he won't allow the other two to be ahead of WWF for too long. But, yeah, I just think you do that, and then, like, once every 3 or 4 months or whatever, you bring them back for these super shows, where everyone just like has some inter-brand matches against each other that are the dream matches that people really wanted to see. And you run that until basically everyone's fought everyone, and then you can just eventually revert back into a different brand split or some sort of a connotation.
Do you guys have the same kind of philosophy that I do, where it's sort of like, it's good to separate people every once in a while, but when you bring them back together, you need to bring them back together as one thing instead of like I almost kind of don't want the brand split to be a thing anymore. And then I want it to happen, and then I want it to not be, and then I want it to happen. Like, I guess kind of like the Big Bang and the Big Crunch. You can kind of think of it as that way. Like, things need to split out so that way you can make more stars and you can showcase more people. But then eventually you hit that point where you're like, SmackDown was having pay-per-views where Sin Cara was wrestling like Kalisto or something, and you're like, does anybody really care about this? And then you know, the Vaudevillains popping up and doing some kind of a mixed tag team match or something, and you're like, and then you put them all back together and you're like, wow, we actually have now the mid-card looks crazy, because all those upper mid-carders that were main eventers on the other one, now they're fighting for the Intercontinental title. And then like looking at this whole set of the roster for the available for the Invasion, I was like, man, this does not look as big and important as 2 years after this.
I think there's an argument to be made that could be an approach to take. I think there's also an argument to be made on the almost the opposite, which is the brand split itself needs to happen so the people that are lower down the card that would otherwise not get an opportunity do get an opportunity, and then they start getting over, and then I'll be able to create new stars out of it. So it's always great to say, oh, well, the top of the card looks a lot bigger now with these stars, but when those stars run out of matches against each other, then what are you left with? You're left with, but we've only been using these guys because they're the only people that we prominently positioned. And so we've just got a load of people underneath that aren't really doing that much because we've never allowed them to. I think the ideal way of using the brand split is like the way that SmackDown used it from like 2002 to 2004, which is you have the top guys on top, but then you use the mid card to really elevate some people up into the main event scene.
Yeah.
And I think the brand split as a concept, especially with the size of a roster WWE has now and what they would have had with bringing in all this ECW and WCW talent, you need to split up the rosters because otherwise you might as well just get rid of half of your roster because they're never going to get used and they're never going to get over. So if you want to do that approach, then I completely agree that you could get rid of the brand split, but you have to get rid of people to make the brand split worthwhile. Because otherwise, you might as well you're just employing people for no reason other than that other companies won't have them, which is essentially what WWE are doing now. So
yeah, I was gonna say it sounds a little familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can't take I can't imagine that WWF in this era would have been able to say, we're buying WCW, we're buying ECW, and we're just going to give them their own shows, because it would be like, does anybody really care about Crowbar? But if you wanted to keep them, you could put him on any of those shows, and you can mix him up with some other people, and he could be a lower card guy here or there, you know what I mean? But I can't imagine them being like, let's keep the rosters the way that they are and all that, because you've already done everything, and you'd have to start being like, as much as a Booker T is definitely a WCW guy, maybe we put him on WWF, and maybe we put a Kane on ECW, or you'd kind of have to do that at some point. This is sort of this is your opportunity to keep the people where they are before you fuck around with all that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
that's an undertaking.
Yeah, that is quite it's quite difficult to this fantasy booking malarkey is not as straightforward as some people would make it out to be.
It's a lot harder when you start getting into not just pure fantasy of every little thing could be anything that you want. Again, I mentioned before, if we're trying to do the mock draft of all time thing, or the make your Raw and SmackDown roster of anybody that you could ever have in the entire history of any of these companies type of thing, then you start getting into some weird specifics, and you start being like, well, I really like Bret Hart from 1997, or I want The Rock from 2002, or whatever it is. And that's kind of if you can do anything, sure, you can make it whatever you want. If you're stuck to trying to figure out what you would do in WWE's mindset at a time, it's a lot more difficult, and it kind of gives them a little bit more credit for some of these mistakes that they make.
I enjoy it. I mean, as you guys can see, I booked way far in advance, and I like it. I like the creative flexibility that I think you get from fantasy booking. And if you're doing it in a certain context and a certain time, it just means I find it a little easier, because it just means, okay, I now have some guidelines to work with instead of just letting my brain go haywire over all of this.
Yeah, so thank you again to Guest 5 for donating to the Patreon, hitting up that Pick Your Poison tier, and suggesting this, because I had a lot of fun doing it, and kind of flexing my brain for something that I wasn't prepared to do at the very onset of this whole 2001 type of thing. But if you want more of the whole 2001 discussion and all that, we mentioned this a couple little times here, but these two guys here are doing the 2001 Wrestling Odyssey podcast once a month, breaking down all that stuff, and you should definitely be checking that out to get more in depth of what's actually happening instead of our fantasy side of things. And if you want more of just any kind of weird random stuff every once in a while, then consider donating to the Patreon and tossing some other ideas our way. There's also some other kind of plugs that I should talk about right now. The fact that we have a Patreon for Fanboys Anonymous. So if you want more Fanboys Anonymous stuff, then that is something to take into account. I mentioned before, and I'll mention again, because it won't be until at least next week, that I'll be doing my kind of reboot, fixing the mistakes, retooling, whatever you want to call it, of Pokemon Generation 1. So stay tuned for that. There's also the Terminator review. Check that out. Check out Week in Geek and anything else that's happening on fanboysanonymous.com. Just head over to fanboysanonymous.com for that stuff, because that's kind of the purpose of the website. There's the merchandise shops if you are interested in donating some money through that kind of thing, where you got like a t-shirt to come out of the mix, or a magnet, or a sticker, or whatever else is. That's that. There's the TeePublic and the Redbubble for Smark Out Moment, Fanboys Anonymous, and A Mango Tees. And of course, there's plenty of other stuff that's happening on the websites. So you got to check the websites for that. You got to check other websites for other stuff I'm working on and all that. And I'll talk about what's coming up next after these guys do their plugs too. So, Rob?
Yes, and on top of everything I'm doing over at Smark Out Moment and stuff like that, I have e-wrestling news, which is a good daily source of news. I also work for WrestleZone.com and do the WrestleZone Daily podcast every day at 6 p.m. Eastern. And I work on the weekends for Fightful. And Fightful.com, if you don't know, is one of the leading breaking news sources currently in wrestling. And Fightful and Fightful Select broke a lot of news regarding the Saudi Arabian travel issues. So if you like stuff like that, head over to Fightful.com, subscribe to Fightful Select, and follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DudeFelice. Callum?
I thought Meltzer broke all of the news about that Saudi Arabia
He
thing.
certainly did
At least
not.
Seth Rollins seems to think he did.
He does.
With the tweet that he sent out.
Yes, and that actually, Tony and I, that happened while we were live. We spoke about that in good detail.
Yeah. So obviously, Tony's mentioned the 2001 Wrestling Odyssey. The November episode will be out sometime this month, where we'll be covering Survivor Series 2001 will be the big main event topic. But we'll also give some reference to Rebellion 2001 from the UK, as well as I can't even remember the name right now. It's too much stuff. I do too much research, and it really plays in my head.
The Hulk Hogan thing?
Yeah, I think it's the
World Extreme Wrestling Federation.
XWF. Yeah. So we'll have a look at some of the shows they filmed in November of 2001 as well, which weren't released until getting onto DVD in 2005. But we can give a little bit of reference to that as well as all the other news and events that take place during that month. And you can check out all the articles on smarkoutmoment.com, including the power rankings, and follow me on Twitter at Wikimeister14.
Alrighty, everybody, that's it for this thing, but coming up next is going to be the All Elite Wrestling Full Gear predictions. We're going to do that on Thursday because we need to watch Dynamite first, because they've only got 4 matches on the card still, and that's kind of crazy. They also don't even have 2 of the graphics up for that. So what are they following? WWE's mentality behind that? Don't do that.
Jeez.
That's something to improve on. That's happening, and then of course at the end of the week on Saturday, when Full Gear actually takes place, then I'll be doing the live coverage there, and we'll be doing the post show for that, and that'll be kind of like wrapping up this week's worth of content. And then next week, this is where it's a little bit kind of confusing, because we're gonna try to do the thing that we normally try to do, which is call the spot. However, they haven't said anything about any kind of Survivor Series tag team match things. So what might end up happening here, and it might end up being for the better too, is I might have to wait for Call the Spot for the Survivor Series tag teams and just do it on the website, just kind of like on my own, and then people can leave comments and that kind of thing, and not do a podcast based off of it. And maybe we'll have some kind of discussion on the Megamaniacs forum or something like that. I don't really know for sure. But if that's the case, then what we're going to try to do is Time Machine Dream Team. I've been trying to work on the logo and the graphics for that, and I might have gotten it to the point where I'm okay with it. I still kind of think it looks a little ugly, but I know ultimately that's not the biggest thing in the world for people. It's usually the content of itself. So we might do that. We might have something weird happen that we might have to take care of a different type of thing or something. I don't really know. Right now, I'm holding it as a spot of being Call the Spot, then Time Machine Dream Team, then question mark. But that could be potentially next week. And then, of course, after that, we're going to get into TakeOver War Games and Survivor Series predictions and the post show for both of those. And then at the end of November, we're going to have the mailbag and our predictions for Starrcade, because Starrcade's going to happen on December 1st. So it's just like things happen. And then the beginning of December, we're going to review the whole Champsgiving tournament, unless we don't get a chance to do it that week. But that also means that Champsgiving is going on, and you should be voting. So the Champsgiving tournament right now for this year is who is the best hardcore champion of all time. I am going to be ending round 1 at some point tonight, Tuesday night for reference, and posting the round 2 set of matches for Wednesday morning. So vote while you can on those. And I think that that's pretty much all that I got to fill you in on for now. And of course, things will change at some point. We'll fill you in when that happens. But leave your comments below. Tell us your thoughts about these fantasy cards. Did you have a favorite? Did you think that we were crazy? Did you prefer WWE's to our cards? Any of those kind of things.
If you did, then you're crazy.
Yeah, it might be the case. And we will just see you next time. So thank you again for listening to this, everybody. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.